Good afternoon. My name is Dania Abdulaziz, and I'll be presenting my personal negotiation, which is where I'm reflecting on a past negotiation, and I am part of the LSU MBA class of 2025. So these are the involved parties of the negotiation, which is me as the MSA treasurer, MSA's Muslim Student Association, and I'm negotiating with the Student Government PSF Committee. And the third involved party is the chairperson of the committee, Nicole Spriggs-Moy. So I think Nicole is the party with the most powerful power since she's the chairperson and she has the officially like final say in how funds are distributed. And her two powers would be power based on position and contextual power. So as chairperson of the PIS committee, Nicole has the authority to lead the funding evaluation process and significantly influence the final decision. And contextually, her familiarity with the committee's priorities and constraints give her insight to how proposals can align with the overall funding goals. And her main goal would be to allocate fundings in the most fair way to initiatives that align with LSU's mission and values, and also to maintain transparency. These are the steps in the process of my negotiation. I think the most challenging step would likely to be number 5, the bidding step, just because the PISF committee has strict guidelines on what aspects of events they will and will not allocate funding for. So I need to do my best to present the budget proposal with clear reasoning as to why it'd be significantly beneficial and important to get the proper funding for each aspect. These are the tactics I would use, and I think the most effective one would have to be the legitimacy one, so that the committee really understands the impact this would have on the large amount of Muslims on campus who come from many cultural backgrounds, along with the fact that the event is open to everyone who's interested in learning about Ramadan, whether Muslim or not. For central root of influence, these are the aspects that I think I would incorporate into my negotiation if I were to renegotiate, with the most important ones being framing and repetition. I positioned the funding as beneficial not only to MSA, but also to LSU by promoting cultural awareness and enhancing campus engagement, since all students and the Baton Rouge community members were allowed to attend. I'd also reiterate key points like cultural significance, student engagement, and alignment with LSU values throughout the presentation to ensure clarity. For peripheral root of influence, I'd incorporate these aspects, with the most important ones being social proof and scarcity. The fact that many other organizations on campus support and host Ramadan iftars every year, including the International Cultural Center on many occasions, provides proof of the event's impact and value to many students on campus. I'd also emphasize the scarcity of MSA's resources and funding, which would also encourage the committees a bit more to allocate funding to us. These are the substantive frames I would use when renegotiating. The most effective one would likely be budget justification. I'd frame the discussion around the necessity of every budget item, providing a detailed breakdown of expenses like food, decor, and promotional materials. This would also demonstrate that the requested funding is both reasonable and essential for the event's success. For procedural frames, these are the 4 that I would use, including agenda setting, virtual format preparedness, audience engagement, and use of visuals. I think the most effective one would have to be the last one with use of visuals and a PowerPoint presentation that I'd share due to the virtual format of the meeting at the time. This is 2021, which is right after like COVID was dying down, so all meetings were still required to be virtual. I think I would prepare concise tables and charts that include a budget summary, event details, and testimonials from past attendees to reinforce my points. Just because during the presentation in 2021, I'm pretty sure there was no PowerPoint used to just present any sort of testimony. For organizational hierarchy, here's a network diagram. Nicole Spriggs represents the letter C, and she's positioned at the top of the hierarchy since she holds the authority and decision-making power in the funding process overall. For B, that's the PISF committee members who also listened into the presentation that I had to talk about, and they're positioned directly under Nicole at B, since they collaborate to evaluate proposals and contribute to the funding decision. And then I, as MSA treasurer, am positioned at the bottom of the hierarchy as A, because I'm a representative advocating for funding, but I don't hold any decision-making authority within the PSIF structure. For organizational network, Nicole is placed as the star due to her central role in coordinating the committee's activities and making financial decisions, whereas PSIF committee members are positioned as liaisons since they facilitate discussions and provide input, and they bridge the gap between the applicants and the chairperson herself. And then lastly, me as MSA treasurer, I'm placed in the external environment as I'm outside of the formal PSIF committee and student government funding, but I also interact with members just to secure funding. Here are potential outcomes. So the most positive outcome would be that the committee is convinced of the event's value and allocates full funding to all aspects of my requested budget. This did not happen. Instead, the actual original outcome that did happen was that I got partial funding for the most important aspects, and the committee approved those funding for crucial aspects, but recommended alternative sources for other aspects. They also imposed conditions such as post-event reporting and budget constraints. For lessons learned with this presentation, I think preparation is crucial as the most important one. The one thing we lacked when we did present and try to get funding in 2021 was the fact that we just didn't prepare enough. We didn't collect data on past events, and we didn't just collect enough feedback or information as to prove why this event was important. And I think anticipating questions from the committee wasn't as prepared as it could have been. The power of framing is also important. Framing the message to align with the committee's values would have been well done. The fact that I've learned this in negotiations makes me want to reevaluate it and go back in time just to renegotiate again with framing as to why this event does promote diversity and cultural awareness, as well as university values at LSU. And lastly, adaptability is essential because the virtual format of the meeting required adjustments to my original approach. And just because it was virtual means we didn't prepare and we didn't make it as professional as it could have been. Thank you.